Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a creator request, which is where a smaller artist or band gets in contact with me and asks me to check out their works. It's really cool because usually this happens through email, and this time it happened over Mastodon. I was talking with Thomas Cannon, and I was told that this track from their EP Mesh Network is one of the ones they're most proud of and that folks have really connected with. It's a great distillation of their approach with ambient music, plus soundscapes and diegetic music, and complements the ethos of their EP. And it just dawned on me that I still put the Twitter thing up there next to the Patreon logo, and I haven't had a Twitter for months. So I guess I have to get that updated over the weekend and put a Mastodon thing up there. Let's dive into this. We're going to check out Dawn at the Metrohub from Thomas Cannon. And just a forewarning, this track has a huge dynamic range to it. It was very difficult to include the quietest sections and the loudest sections without the loud sections being super loud. So a lot of this is going to be on the quieter side. I'm going to do my best to speak a little quieter so that if you turn up the volume to hear the music, well, so that I don't blow out your ears when I decide to have a comment. All right, let's dive into this. Thomas Cannon's Dawn at the Metrohub.
Les recordamos que esta noche es noche de compostaje. Por favor, recolecten toda la basura biodegradable y pónganla de forma segura en sus contenedores designados. Y coloquen estos a la orilla de la banqueta. Gracias.
Very interesting mix of diegetic and non-diegetic, right?
Canelones Express llegará a la estación en 10 minutos. Por favor, asegúrese de tener todas sus pertenencias listas para el abordaje.
It's really neat listening to all of the environmental sounds that were chosen for this.
El depósito de bicicletas está lleno. Visite el kiosco del centro del metro o escanea el código QR para solicitar el servicio de aparcoches.
Temperaturas van a superar 37 grados a media tarde. Observe la siesta y contacta a su mantenedor local si hay problemas con su chimenea solar.
So, a variation on our opening idea.
¿Quieres preservar el último mes en sus vegetales? ¿Quieres donar sus compañías?
Ay, abuela, ¿cómo nos olvidaste de desenrollar tu colector del agua ayer?
Y ayudar a su vecino.
Alright, I'm going to be bringing my volume back up to normal level here, so I'll give you a second to pull your volume back down. Check, check. Alright, that's good. Probably pull that up a little more. So this is really interesting because it's a different kind of music. And I think first we really need to break down diegesis, which was one of the big things in in okay, I will do this manually then. Over here with this, says it's a great distillation of their approach with ambient music with diegetic music. And so diegesis, I think, is really important to understanding what's going on here. Diegetic elements are ones that are perceived to be part of something rather than superficially added. In music, it's really difficult to draw a line, although typically anytime that we add in soundscapes, nature noises, stuff like that, that could be seen as a diegetic element. But I think it's easier, at least for me, to understand this in the concept of visual medium. For instance, you're playing a video game or watching a film and there is a soundtrack going on. Where does that soundtrack come from? If it's not on a speaker in the world of the film or the game, it's non-diegetic. It doesn't come from the world, it comes from outside of it. But if that music is coming from a speaker and somebody hits stop and that music stops as well, we no longer have background music to the scene, that's a diegetic auditory element. So diegesis just explores where phenomenon come from, whether it's visual or auditory. Um, and so, like I mentioned, it's a little more difficult to do with music because it's a single media. It is just audio. So you have to sort of explore what the song is attempting to do to figure out if it's diegetic or not. For instance, if your song is lyrically talking about going through the city and listening to, the muffled sounds of the jazz band through the walls of the bar, and it's a rock band, and then there's a little snippet of jazz music that doesn't feel like it's coming from our band, that would be in the story. We could say that's a diegetic element of the song. So this says semi-diegetic exploration of Montevideo in the future. That's the description of this track. And so how I'm going to interpret this is that the sounds of the city, the people talking, the voiceover for how to utilize the metro station and stuff like that, all that's going to be diegetic. That is part of the world of this this story. That the guitaring and the drumming is going to be music that's not part of the world, that is applied to these fictional field recordings, even though they are real field recordings, as I'm seeing here in the description. They're applied and layered in a new context for this futuristic Montevideo, right? This exploration of this future world. And so that's where the semi-diegetic concept comes from, and that half of this is supposedly in the world of the story, and the rest of it is music created outside of it. And so that kind of leads us to the next part that I think makes this track interesting, is that it is a different kind of music than I think we're typically used to listening to. And I think that's primarily because there isn't anything musical about a lot of the ambiance. The insect chirping and bird chirping and stuff like that we have in a lot of this. Because here's the thing, right? We've talked about this a few times. I think this is going to be a pretty high level analysis here. So I hope you're here for this. And this might be a little bit more drier than usual, which is kind of impressive for this channel. When I was in uni, one of the classes I took was world musics. And I think I've told this story a couple of times. Our first thing was to define what music was, and a lot of us gave answers based on Western music, and they don't really apply too well to folk musics or musics from other cultures and stuff like this. And so we kind of came down to what is my modern understanding of music. It's the definition that I always use when talking about it, which is combinations of sounds and silence. Intent is not a necessary part of that. And one of the things that we explored in this class was a field recording of a postage a post office, and just everybody working in sync with themselves and with the machinery. It sounded like an industrial beat. Of course, it was just people working, but there was a rhythmic component to it, even though it wasn't intentional. And I'd say that that's still music. My opinion is not shared with everyone, but I don't believe that intent is required. But I think most people would say that that was musical. When it comes to the ambient sounds that we have in this track, they are not as musical. There's not really a rhythmic idea going on. The chirping of the birds and the buzzing of the insects don't really have a melodic or harmonic component to it. So I think it would be more difficult for people to say That's not music, but it's musical, right? I think a lot of people just say that's not music, that's not musical at all. But the thing is that it was utilized in a song, and in this case, with intent, which makes it music, even if it's not something we would traditionally assign to the description of musical. And I think that's really interesting. Because it acts as, the more I listen to this, the more I realize that it's kind of like the feedback or the static off of electric guitars in metal. Anytime that we bring in distorted guitars, and we have these noise that comes as a texture for our instruments, or even just the buzzing of the instrument being powered on based on the amount of gain and distortion we've applied to them, that just resting has a buzz sound to it. And so I started to kind of apply that element here too. And, we wouldn't call that musical, but it is part of music. And I'm okay. So then this must be part of music. And I was trying to really come around to this because I would also be one who wouldn't classify the nature sounds as musical, but they must be according to everything that I understand about music. And so it I'm not gonna lie, because I don't, I'm very opinionated on this channel. I'm very upfront. I like to think of myself as a rather transparent person. I've taken a lot of flack for saying, speaking my mind in the past. I don't think people have a view of me that I come up here and just say nice things to be nice to everything. Um, I had a hard time understanding this as music in the first half. We had the guitar at the beginning and we had the ambiance outside of that. Okay, we can go with that. Drums came in. We had some sounds of the city, the the sound wave for the instructional voice. Okay. Things are musical here, but then we kind of cut everything out and went pure nature for a good minute or so. And my gut instinct was, when's the music coming back? This isn't music. This is just noise. And I think that's sort of accurate. It is just noise, but noise is music, and that's where I wasn't making the connection. Um, and so, even I had to have a little personal revelation about what is musical, what can be used to make music, what can be an instrument. And today I came around to the idea that technically a field recording of nature is a musical instrument. And I think that's really neat. Now, I think we've kind of gone on the the high level stuff for a bit, and I want to talk about the song itself. And I've kind of already kind of broken it down a little bit. We have our introduction guitar and then some drumming. We introduce some atmospheric ideas, both nature and city. We explore just those in isolation. There's people talking. And then we come out with a variation of our guitar idea that wraps our song out as it fades out and moves into another purely atmospheric concept. What I find most intriguing about this is that the musical components, the non-diegetic element, the guitar, we'll talk about the drums in a second, the percussion, but the guitar specifically feels the most out of place when it is what I think most people would see as the most musical element in your song. I think it's interesting because it I'm really trying to figure out what it does. To me, it's supposed to set the emotion for the track. It's kind of what I kind of felt its role was. It's plays chord progression-y stuff. pretty much every time it's up. And the purpose of a chord progression is to, uh, portray emotional quantities of the track. The whole purpose of choosing a key and a mode and a chord progression is to control the emotions. That's what they do best. And I don't really feel that there's a strong emotional element in it. It's sort of just is. And I think that's when things begin to click with me, that that's what this is. It's not supposed to tell me how to feel about this uh, exploration of this area, right? Just like the drums don't tell me how to feel about it, nor the nature sounds, nor the city sounds. They don't tell me how to feel about it. This is, as the description states, an exploration. It is basically no different than just holding your phone out with the record button on and walking through these places. It's not a story being told purposefully. The story is through the diegesis of what happens next without the control of the composer, so to speak. There is a composer in this, right? Thomas took all these elements and laid them out in a workstation and mixed it all down like this. But the story of the music is that there isn't a composer. There's just some person recording on their walk through this area. And that's when I realized the song doesn't care what I think. It's not trying to make me feel a specific way about it. It's just presenting itself as is. And I think that's fascinating. So much analysis on this channel is about trying to figure out what the artistic intent was, what they wanted me to feel about their music. And that's because a lot of it is based off of traditional music building blocks: harmony, melody, rhythm, chords, emotions. And this is more like reading a book without words, where the music is formed both through traditional instruments and the sounds of an environment. And I think that's fascinating. I've talked about this track for like 15 minutes now. Um, and I don't feel like I've said a lot about it. I've used a lot of words to kind of explain what I can about it, but I don't think I have the vocabulary for it. Primarily because I have so little exposure to it, but also because my formal education has all been for traditional music and stuff like this multimedia approach um, is exploring music in a vastly different sense. Like I said, I even had to rewire my brain to even understand most of the sounds in here to be musical, to have musical intent. And so I think that's the end of my analysis here, but that is not where this song will stop being something I think about. We've listened to something similar to this, and I can't remember. Oh, it was another create. Actually, we have it was a special selection thing, but the person who made it was the one who also did the special selection for it. Here we go. We're actually listening. Yeah, so this was a two-part thing. It was from DJ Project. Yep. And it was like a 20-minute thing, and there were parts of it that were musical. I think there was a straight up like soap opera moment, just two people speaking in French, having an argument. I think that was something that happened. No music, nothing atmospheric, just two voices for like 3 or 4 minutes having a conversation. We're going to be checking out part 2 to that in a couple of weeks. I'm stoked about that. But, this type of music that kind of pushes the boundaries of what is a song, what is musical, and beginning to incorporate things outside of traditional musical composition, I think is fascinating. It pushes the boundaries of our understanding of the craft. And even though I don't necessarily have the words or understanding or experience or exposure to, I think, properly give them the analysis that they deserve, I hope I can still shed a little bit of light on how they're constructed and what kind of techniques are going into their creation that are helping to see what music is capable of as a storytelling device, or even beyond that. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on Thomas Cannon's Dawn at the Metrohub. If this interested you, I've worked with Thomas and uh, we've put a discount coupon for the album in the description. It comes down to not a lot of money. I don't remember what it comes out to, but it was a steal basically at the discounted rate. Go ahead and click that and use that discount code to purchase the album at a discounted rate. I'm not very good at this, so this feels weird. I've repeated myself twice now. I don't usually help promote people this way, which I think is pretty cool. First time's going to be rough as usual. Let me know your thoughts. If you enjoyed this or not, anything that stood out to you, anything you'd like to add on or correct me on. I know we had some higher level topics here. If you want to ask me any questions about any of that, go for it. Yeah, just put all that stuff in the comment section. Above the comments is a description box in there. Normally I'd link my stuff, but today, as usual, we're going to link our creator, Thomas Cannon, social medias or websites, their link tree, their streaming services, all that stuff's going to be in the description. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Make sure to show them some love as well. That wraps it up for today. We got an album review tomorrow. We got our live stream on Sunday for the patrons. I'll try to have that out Sunday night for everyone else. Monday, we'll start next week's theme. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.